Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, December 8th, Monday, December 9th. For those of you across the pond and beyond, welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I hope you guys have had a rockin' weekend and an awesome day, and I hope your holidays are coming together as you had planned. Man, it's such a crazy time of year. But I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are live tonight on Spreaker, Periscope, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Tumblr, YouTube, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, and just recently Podcast Addict. So tonight I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we will be talking to and getting to know Mr. Lee Strauss. And when he received his first full-color night vision camera, Lee, already a part-time photographer, was excited to try out this new medium. 2 months later, Lee would capture his first UFO on film. In 2017, Michael Hall asked Lee if he wanted to join the UFOiTeam, a venture that Michael had just got the idea for, and Lee, of course, accepted. Lee is an outdoor enthusiast with many years of backpacking, hiking under his belt. He has been a photographer and videographer for years. He recently worked with Ambition Pictures on a film where he caught UFOs flying towards Mount Adams. Since that occurrence, Lee has logged hundreds of hours of filming and photography and photographing the sky. Lee says he has gotten to the point where it seems as if the UFOs are communicating with him and his team on their night watches. Lee and the UFOiTeam have amassed a staggering amount of gear in hopes of capturing the holy grail of UFO proof. Hey Lee, thanks so much for volunteering to come on the show tonight. I'm so interested in what you do and all the amazing evidence you've captured. You have some really compelling evidence.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here. You're a gracious host.
Why, thank you. So I'm intrigued and interested to hear the stories that your grandpa told you. My grandpa was in the Air Force, and he had told me some very staggering stories. What sort of stories did your grandpa share with you?
Well, just this one incident was, when I was about 6 years old, he brought me into his film room, and he said, "Hey, do you want to see some slides of UFOs?" And I'm like, "Well, sure, yeah, that's great." Not really thinking much of it, but the slides were of these light aberrations in the sky, and I was really taken aback by that. And he told me not to tell anybody. He said, "Don't tell anybody I showed you these. Don't tell anybody." And of course, what do? I went over and told the neighbor kid and had him come over, and my grandfather was pretty upset at me for doing that. But and then grandfather showed him too, so that was pretty neat. And then later in life, my mother would tell me of two separate incidences of UFOs. One was at Green Lake, where they were at Green Lake Park. And over Green Lake, this UFO dropped down over the lake, hovered there for a minute or two, and then took off into the sky. So she told me about that. And then a couple years later, she had an incident where she was driving back from Leavenworth, Washington, and was chased by a UFO, her and my aunt. And they said that the light filled up the back of their vehicle, and they could hear like a humming noise right over the top of their vehicle. And my mother just hit the gas and raced over the pass as fast as she could. And they were both frightened to death. And it finally took off and left them alone. But probably a good thing that it did.
So you also had your own UFO experiences. Can you tell us about that?
So my first experience with a craft was, I think it was 2010, and I was living in Linwood, Washington. I was watching something on TV about UFOs, and it prompted me just to get up off the couch and go to the balcony and look up. And of course, for some reason, that thought entered my head, and I did that, and I saw a big, huge triangle craft. I would say it was probably 400 feet by 300 feet. It was a large, large craft in the sky, and it was moving pretty darn slow to the horizon. So I grabbed my phone and I started calling my mother, talking to her, and I was like, "Mom, you will not believe what I'm seeing right now." And then I told her, and she says, "Get back in the house. Get back in the house right now." She was yelling at me through the phone. So she was pretty freaked out by that. But it was an experience that launched me into wondering what the heck is going on. I was raised Catholic. My grandfather and my grandmother were devout Catholic. So it was interesting that my grandfather believed in such things and was, open to share those things with me, even though they had great faith. So, for me, that gave me the drive to want to know more. And, years later in my life, I had an incident at home, and the location is important for this story. My grandfather bought a house across from Murray Island, and I inherited that home, and I moved in there. And if you know anything about Washington State and the Murray Island incident, that was before Kenneth Arnold incident with the UFOs skipping over Mount Rainier. So this happened I think 2 weeks prior to that, the UFO incident out there. So I awoke in my room, and there was something in the room, and it chokes me up. There was something there. I don't know exactly what it was, but it wasn't human. And that scared me pretty good. So that just propelled me into trying to find other people that have had that similar type of experience. And that's how I got in touch with and met Michael Hall.
How did you find Michael or come upon him? How did you guys actually meet?
Through a meetup group. There's an app called Meetup, and I met him and a couple other individuals, and we hit it off right away. It was, things that they would talk about, things that I would talk about, everything just jived. I mean, it's like going back and talking to a family member about events that have happened in your life, and you don't know these people, but somehow they know about the events that have happened in your life. So it definitely rekindled, or just kindled a friendship that, is very, very strong.
That's awesome. And it's so nice to find people who have had experiences or like-minded people that you can relate to when it does come to this, because it can be quite traumatic and it really does affect your life and your outlook on life. So I'm so glad that you guys found each other and have that mutual respect. And to be able to utilize a team, it's easier to get equipment and other things. So that's so awesome that you've been able to do that. So what is the first case that you worked on with Michael?
Well, so I met Michael and a couple other guys. We went up to Baker Lake, or actually not Baker Lake, but Mount Baker, to the town of Glacier, Washington. And there had been some reports up there, and one of our friends had a UFO experience up there. So we went up there to see if we could capture anything on film. And we didn't capture much. There was a couple little things that we saw, but not noteworthy, really, because it was cloudy too. I mean, the weather wasn't that great, but we did capture a couple little things. And then Michael and I decided to go back 2 months later to the same location and film again. And we were up at a place called Artist Point, which is at the foot of Mount Baker, but it's about, I think it's about 6,000 feet up, if I'm not mistaken, 5,000 to 6,000 feet up. And it looks straight across to the Canadian border. And it looks at a range of mountains. You've got American Border Peak, Canadian Border Peak, and you've got Larrabee and a mountain chain called the Pleiades. And that's where we had set up the gear to look at, is straight over at the Pleiades, because we thought that that was an interesting name, and, you know, there's Pleiades star system, so there must be something, you know, something there. And we started capturing these lights above the Pleiades. Stationary lights, they would flicker in and out, but we were watching these things for about 10 minutes recording as well, and we just got the idea, well, let's ask the lights to do something for us. Let's ask them to change color and so forth. And we tried that. Okay, change color for us. We said it out loud, change color for us. And then they changed colors, which is just astonishing. We asked them to flare up for us, and they would flare up. I mean, this event lasted half an hour or so, and we were just dumbfounded. Michael was sitting there in a lawn chair with his binoculars glued to his forehead, to his eyes. It was just the most amazing thing. Yeah, it was impressive. Just so much going on there, so much excitement. And it seemed to me like they fed off our excitement. And it was hard to tell whether or not they were solid craft. It looked like just balls of light that were changing colors and pulsating and fading in and out, moving left and right. I remember that it was very cold and windy up there, and this is before I got the tripod for the camera. So trying to hold it steady was a tough thing to do, for sure.
Well, yeah, especially when, you know, you get that excitement, you can't control your heart rate, and your body reacts to the adrenaline that's pumping, and you get that shakiness. So it's definitely best to use a tripod to have that steadiness, to be able to catch the different details and such of certain craft.
Right. And like I was just so new to this, and I didn't know exactly what I would need at the time. I just figured, well, you know, we'll just set it up and turn it on, and I'll be able to just scan the sky with it, and, you know, maybe see something here or there, or something that looks like a satellite or whatever. But this was 7 years ago that this happened, and it's been a crazy 7 years. I'll tell you that. It just gets better and better. We get more equipment, and it's an amazing first look at what is possible. I mean, with full color night vision, it definitely piqued my interest even more, I should say. Sure made me open my checkbook up.
I've always had a thing for the sky. I think it was because my mom died and I was like 5, almost 6, so I'd always look up to the sky and, you know, say that she had painted the sunset or the sunrise for me. And I actually went out and made a little bed in the back of the truck for the kids, and we were looking for shooting stars. There was meteor showers going on, and so I'm taking pictures of the sky and also the clouds around the moon. The moon was giving off this like electric blue color, so that was beautiful as well. But when the moon had first come up, I took a picture of that, and I actually accidentally captured some UFOs. And it is basically a ring of lights on the cloud right next to the moon, and then there's another light out in the sky coming towards that cloud. Didn't notice them at the time until I went through my pictures later that night to see, you know, clarity and definition, so on and so forth. And Throughout the night, these little lights became little individual shuttlecraft, and it seemed like they were tucked around the clouds, and the formations that they would do, every craft was facing the same way, whether it was up, down, to the right, to the left. But yeah, they were tucked in along the clouds, and then towards the end of the night, they became little lights again, and then they were just gone. But that was amazing. I couldn't believe that I had captured these.
And how long did that experience last?
It was for hours. It started as this, the moon had risen, and then it was up. Okay, so we start at about, let's say, 8 o'clock, and then later on that night, it's higher in the sky, and you're getting these different colors and the different craft around the clouds. Right. It just makes me wonder, what are they doing? And my dad had always told me about UFOs. He believed in them. I believe in the paranormal because I had experienced it my whole life, but I wanted to believe in UFOs, and I didn't actually see one with my own eyes until 2012. And I'm driving back from the motorcycle rally, and my daughters are in the back seat of my 72 Gran Torino, and they're going on about this light in the sky that's following our car. And I'm thinking, they're talking about the moon or something like that. But they're really getting agitated and kind of freaked out about it. And it followed us for about 15 minutes of driving. And then I stopped at the stop sign at the end of Rainbow Road, and I get out to look at it. And Nova's like, "Mom, what are you doing? Please just take us home. Just take us home." And I'm like, "I want to see what you guys are talking about. I haven't been able to look up to see it because I'm driving." And so I look up in the sky, and it's probably about 50 feet in the air. So it looks smaller, and it just looks like this orange globe or
fireball. That's what it sounds like. What other people have described.
Yeah, it looks like a fireball, but it's contained in a round globe.
Yeah.
So that was towards the end of the summer in 2012, and then I gave birth to my son, and Dylan Redwine had gone missing, and I'm looking out into the horse pasture in the backyard, and the moon gleaming off the snow, and thinking about him and hoping he's safe and warm wherever he's at, and hoping that he's not deceased, which he was. His dad had killed him. But I'm holding my baby boy, and I'm thinking, if there's ever anybody out there that could help this mother, I'm going to try to do it. So that brought me out of the paranormal closet. But it was so strange. All of a sudden, I see this orange colored light coming down the back fence, which is about 20 feet away from where I was sitting. And this thing was about 40 feet out. And it's going at a slow walking pace. And this time it's only about 4 feet off the ground. And it looks like it's 3 or 4 feet in circumference or diameter. And this time, with it being closer, it looked like it had liquid fire going through it. And it was going in a clockwise motion on the inside of this globe. And you could see the yellow and the orange and the red, and it's just flowing slowly in a clockwise fashion and moving at a slow walking pace. So I put my son down, I go to the door, I'm trying to open my phone and get to the camera setting, but I can't get my fingers to work. I'm just so amped up. So I call my family over. I'm like, "You guys come look at this." And I slung the door open, and I stepped out, and right as soon as my foot hit the snow, I thought, I don't know what this thing is. I don't know what it wants or what its intentions are. So I stepped back into the house, closed the door, and at this point, my 2 daughters and my husband are with me. And it's funny, my 2 daughters saw the same thing I did, an orb or a globe with liquid fire flowing through it. My husband saw a globe with a glowing large bat flapping its wings at a slow rate of speed, which is really strange. So it makes me wonder if this is some sort of cloaking or something they're doing, and it makes me wonder also, what exactly are they doing? Are they monitoring us or what? What are your thoughts on why are they here?
Well, I think it's for human advancement. I think they're trying to make us better, through some sort of evolutionary get up and go process. I have no idea, but that's pretty much what I think. it seems like they're opening us up more to feel more, be more empathetic, empathic. That's what I think. That's what it seems like to me, anyway. And what makes me say that is because of during this process, of seeing all these things and recording everything, I have become more empathic towards other people. So that's my thought, is that they're trying to help move us along in an evolutionary fashion and faster than we are.
Yeah, and everybody acts like it's something new, but there's actually paintings back in the time of Christ and different people painting what they're seeing, and you see these spacecraft in the sky and wars going on. It makes me wonder also how many different races are out there and what are they fighting over. I think one, like you're saying, is fighting for us and for our benefit, and the other probably had ulterior motives. So that's probably why the war in the sky happened. But it's amazing how, they don't have cameras, so they're recording it in paintings. And who knows what sort of text is out there about it that's been kept from us, as well as these other things going on.
I'm sure there is a lot of text about it that the Vatican keeps secret. It's one of my thoughts. But I have a sneaky suspicion that because you have seen what you've seen, you might have benefited from it as well. They might have maybe done something, to you and your family to make you more empathetic. And I think that somehow spreads through community and through the people you meet and so forth and so on. I think that's part of their game.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anything for a long time, but I know they're out there. I actually accidentally caught one shooting across the sky when I was trying to film a solar eclipse going on, and this thing just across the sky. All you could see is this little silver thing just flying who knows how fast.
Right.
Do you have kids? If you do, or other family members, have you had multiple family members experience these things? And do you think there's a reason some of us see these things and some of us don't?
Yes, I do have. I've got 2 kids, and my daughter especially has related a couple of things to me, to my ex-wife, some stuff that has happened to her, playing with other children that don't look like children and that sort of thing. That's kind of a sensitive subject. I don't know that I really want to get into that portion of it, but she's related some stories, and my son had dreams of what he called the toucan man that would come and visit him at night, and so that was also something that piqued my interest. And I don't know where he got the name the Toucan Man or why he called him that, but that's actually pretty scary sounding to me.
Right? Could you imagine? And we call things names according to what they look like to us. Have you ever talked to him about perhaps drawing a picture of what he saw?
No, I never did. My thought is that, along the lines of what you saw and your husband saw and how it looked like a bat in an orb, I think they can change what they look like to any person they want to. So I think our perception of what they are is skewed and varied through, lots of different experiences and different people.
And I think they've tried to come to us several times, and a lot of times when I think of UFOs, I'm reminded of the event that happened out in California, and they have these spotlights trained onto this craft in the sky, and it's very big, and they're actually shooting at it, and nothing's happening. And it makes me wonder what they're thinking as far as how do we come and communicate with people. I think they can pick up on, like you were saying, people that are empathic and more understanding and don't just automatically shoot first and then ask questions later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It seems like they're really trying to contact, from what I've gathered, it seems like they're really trying to contact people that are more right-brained people, for some reason. Maybe, they're only stab in the dark at that, but maybe we're less likely to fight back, or we're more interested in than just having a gut reaction of fight or flight. I have no idea. So we have recorded some things lately that we would believe might be them trying to communicate with us. And I'd like to get into that if I could.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so shortly after we started the UFOiTeam and started going out and recording things, we noticed that things would malfunction all the time. The batteries would instantly die, and then after whatever was going on, the batteries would come back and they would be fine. We've had cell phones go off for no reason, different things happening that should not happen. There's no rhyme or reason why they should happen. And instead of thinking, well, it must just be, something defective, we started to think that, well, maybe this is some way of trying for them to try to communicate with us. And that's what our thought is now. So we've actually set up cameras we put a tablet out, for instance. We set up a camera to record a tablet to see if anything would happen with that. Nothing happened with that, but we did have an incident with a cell phone, and we got that recorded. We were with Encounters USA doing a sky watch at Takalaka Lake down in, that was in Trout Lake, Washington. And my phone all of a sudden decided that it was going to go to Amazon by itself, and it went to the app, and it was kind of moving around a little bit, and then it started dialing a number. There's no cell service out there at all, and nobody was touching the phone. So that was pretty wild. That was a very paranormal thing to have happen, and that's kind of freaky to me. Is how they can manipulate our gear, into whatever they want to. I mean, you've heard about the stories where they've taken and shut down missile silos and stuff like that. Well, apparently they can mess with all kinds of technology. So that's what we do too, is we try to record that as well, because there might be some hidden information in there that we can glean.
Right. So do you think they're picking up on our thoughts telepathically?
I was saying, okay, flash for me, and it flashed. And I was talking to one of my friends on the phone while this is going on. In this location, there was some cell service over at Baker. Now,
you guys are out in the field, and you're not only having UFO experiences, but your team members are actually having Bigfoot experiences at the same time that these things are happening. Do you think they're related in any way?
I don't think they're related in any way. I think when you go into a location to film and you're open to, so many different things. I mean, basically what you're doing is you're opening yourself up. And some people would say that that's a really dangerous thing to do, because and one of the psychic, I think her name is Nikki, and I think she thought that there was something there that was Bigfoot. So yeah, I'm not too familiar with that story. But me and Ander had an incident when we were up at Baker, where there was something on the road below us. We had driven up this logging road to film something was on the road below us, and we could hear it dragging something up the road. And then it left the road and started coming up the hill towards us, dragging something heavy. And that scared the absolute crud out of us. And the problem is with all the thickets and stuff, even our thermal gear will not pick up anything through this thick brush. So we can't see what it is, no matter what we're doing. But it was making a low grunt noise. That was a frightening experience, I'll have to tell you. Not long after that started, we gathered up our stuff and left. And we had a second crew that was actually watching us from down on the lake. They were viewing us from down there. So they could see the headlights of the truck. They could see the lights we haven't get in contact with each other very well. So we just left it at that. And then we took off. We just left. He thought we were coming down to see him, and we just hightailed it out of there. And I didn't know about the lights above the vehicle until a day later, when Dave called me and said, "Hey, by the way, I've got some interesting footage to show you." And so that startled me too. I mean, you're there out in the boonies like that, and if there's something going on right above you and you don't even see it with your eyes, but somebody else can video it, that's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, are they cloaking so you don't see them, but they don't realize that Dave's watching?
Right. I have no idea. And so with a lot of the things that we do now, we try to have several teams of people and separate us a little bit. It's best if we have walkie-talkie communication or something like that. But it gives it a different dynamic, and that's just something that we started doing this year. I just saw the picture you sent me. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, those are the ones I captured, and I was just blown away because I didn't see them, with my naked eye. I have to wear glasses for long distance vision. But yeah, I got them on camera, and I was just, wow, I didn't even realize they were there. And the kids got kind of freaked out. I'm like, hey, you guys, look at this. And I don't know if you were able to zoom in around the clouds to see the little shuttlecraft, but it seems like a single-person shuttlecraft or single alien, whatever you want to say, with two little boosters on the side. But like I said, as they were leaving, and I'll have to send that one too, they just went back into little lights again, and then they were gone.
So this is interesting. I'm going to try to describe the picture here for the viewers. I'm looking at a cloud formation in the sky that's still, but yet there's moving lights and trails and streaks that are moving through the clouds, which is really crazy.
Yeah, the little laser-looking one, I actually have several pictures of that, and for the listeners, you can look under Tessa Nicole Thomas-Peterson, and it's under the album UFOs. And you see the one that I like to call the Conference in the Sky, and that's where all the lights are sitting there on a cloud, and it looks like they're having a little conference. But then you see like the little laser coming out, and it kind of shoots to the left, and then it shoots to the right, and in a like zigzaggy formation. I'm just like, what the heck is going on? And my friend Kat was like, well, maybe it was something going on with your camera. I'm like, I've never had this happen before. It only happened during that time. I did not see these things coming out of the sky with my naked eye, but with the camera, I was able to pick them up.
What kind of camera are you using?
That was a Nikon 7000, I believe. Oh, I have to look at it. But yeah, it's a digital camera. And I've also wondered, not only with UFOs, but the paranormal, do you get different things with digital and with film? Do different genres of cameras or whatnot pick up different things?
They do. I don't shoot with film. I haven't for a long time. So that's actually a great idea, is to start shooting with film again. I haven't even thought about that. We have we have a plethora of equipment. Right now, sitting in front of me, I've got a Nikon P1000, which has got a 3000 millimeter zoom on it, digital camera, and that's a fantastic camera if you're shooting like the moon, or things that are in a great distance. But let me go into a little bit about the gear that we have, just for people that might be interested in that. So we've got two other cameras. I've got a Sony A7 III, which is probably hands down right now the best digital camera DSLR for taking pictures at nighttime. There might be a little bit of argument there, but from all the research I did, that's pretty much what I'm using right now for time-lapse photography. I use a wide-angle lens, 1.4, so the aperture is pretty big, and it's fantastic for shooting the night sky. I also have a Canon 7D. That's the one I started with when I started doing photography. And that one we're actually changing into a UV camera. I'm going to be sending that one in to get its filters removed so that I'll be able to shoot in UV, which is another medium where people say that they see a lot of things. So that'll be good to do. And then we have 3 full-color night vision cameras. One is a Psionics Aurora, and the other 2 are the Luna Optics. We've got a Luna Optics 50 and a Luna Optics 60. And those are great for full-color night vision as well. And we have a lot of other equipment. We've got Geiger counters. We've got, Tesla meters, and we have full spectrum camera. Just a lot of different stuff.
What exactly is a Tesla meter?
So that one's reading magnetic fields. So we're hoping to find locations where maybe a craft has landed, and we can, gather some information from that kind of a incident. So we have put together quite a variety of stuff. We have infrared cameras as well. Dave has got a plethora of infrared cameras. It's just amazing. Probably got 6 or 7 of them now. And then we also have telescopes, which he really doesn't use for shooting UFOs, but he does have them on site for us. And then he also brings like your Gen 3 night vision as well. And he's got several of those. It's just there's so much gear that nobody can handle it all. I mean, even though there's more gear than the group can handle, which is, So what I've done is I've built a tripod with a bar that runs across it. It has 4 separate cameras on it, and they're all pointed at the same location. So that sits by itself. I man that constantly, and then I've got 2 other cameras on tripods that sit there in case I can run to them and capture something else, which would be an impossibility pretty much. The time-lapse camera will catch most everything that goes on in front of me in the sky with the wide-angle lens, and we've got fantastic results with that.
Yeah, do you find that you pick up more with the time-lapse than you do regular video?
It's easier to see things in regular video than with time-lapse. The time-lapse, we get things that maybe do like a squiggly line in the sky, a loop-de-loop, that sort of stuff. Something that maybe goes across the screen for a little bit and then does a right angle turn. those are the kind of things that we're getting with the time lapse and the video. You can actually see it happen. So that's kind of more exciting, I guess. I would definitely say that's a lot more exciting than just looking at a picture with the squiggly lines.
Right. What is that?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
so it gives you a little bit more.
I can picture you with like these cameras and kind of all pointing in different directions, doing a whole 360, trying to capture all the sky. And a lot of people wonder, why aren't there a lot of evidence out there? But people have individually captured things on a lot of times their cell phones these days, because everyone generally has one on them. But you were talking about the Canon. I have a couple Canon video cameras, and those are amazing. You can capture pictures on those as well, and it's amazing the definition you get of the moon and other things going on in the sky with those.
Yeah. We do have a guy, Andrew, he basically just sits there and watches the sky for us. We hand him a laser because he's the guy that's going to point out the stuff that's going on out there to let us, and so that we can zero in with our cameras. So it makes it a little bit easier with him. That way I don't have to have cameras pointing in every single direction all at once.
Yeah, one time we were carrying groceries into the house, and I see this thing shooting through the sky, but it was at a slow pace, and you look up and you realize that's not a UFO, that's a satellite. And there's different sites that people can look at on their cell phones or laptops or whatnot that will tell you flight paths and times, and it'll also tell you when the satellite's going to be over certain areas. Do you guys look into that as well when you go out on investigation?
Yes, we do. We have a Sky Guide. We use that on one of our iPhones. In fact, I've got it on my iPhone. I can mount that underneath my tripod, or actually attach it to the tripod so that I can see what's going on while I'm moving the tripod cameras around, just to make sure that, if I'm capturing anything that's anomalous, or whether it's a piece of space junk, because it does list things like booster rockets and stuff like that. Even booster rockets are listed on Sky Guide. It's not going to capture everything. Sky Guide is not fail-proof, but we started implementing a technique. When we find something in the sky that's moving across the sky, we'll count. If it flashes, we'll do a count, and if it repeats the flash in any type of sequential pattern, then we just figure, well, it's got to be a piece of space junk that's tumbling around in space and capturing the sunlight. So,
yeah, you never know.
Right. And so when we look at a piece of evidence, the first thing that we have to put into our heads is, okay, what is this? Is this anything known? First of all, is it anything known? And if we can, if as a group we can decide that it's something known, then it's probably not worth publishing. But if we decide, well, it's possibly unknown, or it is unknown, then of course it's worth publishing. The thing that we're trying to do is dispel the stigma of people who have had these things happen to them. It's a really important.
Right after this break. This musical break.
To do, my heart is so confused. In the past it's been put down, it's been shattered, and then I'm left without any clue to know the real truth about what I found. But with you I found my common ground. You're the one that makes me emotional, 'cause you're the one that makes me feel emotional. so I can't let go. 'Cause what we have is magical. Your love's emotional. Your love's emotional. You're the one that makes me feel emotional. Can't you see you do something to me? Oh, I can't let go, no, no. You make me feel, yeah. Your love's emotional. So emotional. So emotional. It feels so real to me. It feels so real to me. It feels so real to me. It feels so real, yeah, yeah. Makes me feel, yeah. Emotional, emotional, emotional.
Your love empowers me. It gives me the energy to move beyond my capabilities. There is no limit to what your love can do.
I feel chemistry whenever you're close to me, and I cannot explain your energy, 'cause you're pulling me like gravity. It feels so strong.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies with me, TessaTNT, as well as Mr. Lee Strauss. On that music break, we had Miss Tracy Cruz from the Bay Area of California singing Emotional Love, as well as Electricity. And then we also had Prime Example with Dancing Machine. I'm so glad, Nikki and others of you out there, that you are enjoying the music that has been graciously bestowed upon us by Mr. Quest, who is a member of Prime Example. Lee, welcome back to the show. It's so great to have you on.
Thank you very much. I'm here and ready to get started on the second hour.
Awesome. So this hour, we're going to start off with talking about alien or UFO communication. Go ahead and tell us what you guys have learned out in the field and what evidence you've captured.
So last year we started during one night of recording the night sky. We noticed that what we thought were meteors might not be meteors. What was happening was they would come down towards the ground, and then they would like make this snaking motion as they're coming down towards the ground. And our first inclination, well, we were looking at this and reviewing it, was, well, why are these meteorites doing this? And Dave, who is, an amateur astronomer, said, I've never seen anything like this. So then that began our search on Google and all over the internet, trying to find out whether or not this is common for meteorites to come down towards the ground and make the snaking motion back and forth, undulating as they're coming down. And we found nothing. The thought was, well, maybe they're, irregular shape, and because they're coming down, they're, flip-flopping and doing that sort of thing and getting deviated and causing them to move in this fashion. But over the previous years, we have never seen anything like that before. And we were viewing this from ECETI, if anybody's ever heard of ECETI Ranch in the the south part of Washington, and it looks straight at Mount Adams from the town of Trout Lake. So it's one of the places we like to film from because things do happen there. And I'll go into more about ECETI Ranch later, but so we're witnessing these things happen, and we're not seeing them in the night sky as we're filming. We actually, when we take the video back and we process it and we look at it and we find these things and we realize that there's probably a group of 6 to 7 of these objects that are doing this, coming in from different angles, and even one of them looked like it was going straight, almost horizontal at the sky, maybe a little bit of a downward motion, but then it did it too, the same waviness up and down as it went through the lens of the camera, or the camera's view. And so we gathered all these together, and I'm talking to Dave about it, we're talking to Michael about it, we're talking to some other folks about it. And, just put that aside for a second, because we didn't know what to think of it. And one day I was having coffee up at the local coffee place, and I was explaining to this gentleman what we were seeing. And he says, it sounds like a carrier wave, like a sine wave. And I'm like, what? A carrier wave or sine wave? He says, yeah. And that piqued my interest. So right away, I get on the phone and say, hey, Michael, this might be a carrier wave or a sine wave that we're getting. And Michael's, well, let's call Dave. And so I called Dave, and Dave is an electronics technician. He fixes equipment for a living. And so he's got a oscilloscope. And I says, hey, Dave, here's the videos. Take these and try to figure out what kind of sine wave or signal these are. So he's using his oscilloscope at work, and he's doing some mathematical formulas I can't even begin to fathom through his understanding of these things. And he comes up with, well, it's the Schumann resonance. And we're like, what? The Schumann I've never heard about the Schumann resonance before. And he's like, yeah, it's the Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz. And I'm like, what? So he's showing me this on a little video that he sends me back on my phone from his oscilloscope. He says, yeah, just check this out. This is the same resonance that the Earth vibrates at the majority of the time. And this resonance is embedded in all of humanity, in all of the things that are here on the planet, like all the animals and the trees and the grass. Everything resonates at this frequency here on this planet. Earth does have times where that it goes out of Schumann resonance and then goes back. It's more of a constant, I guess. The Earth's constant is at 7.83. So we found that just fascinating. Why are they showing us the Schumann resonance? These objects that were coming down toward Earth, and we think that maybe they were showing us how they phase in and out of matter, possibly, showing us what our frequency is. They understand what frequency we're in, possibly, so maybe they are trying to match that so that we see them. They're just trying to give us little clues. And I think there's more there that we haven't understood yet, but, it takes a long time to go through all the footage that we get during a given summer, and that's what winter's great for us, because we can review everything and go back. In fact, there's probably 60 plus hours anyway of footage that I haven't even looked through that we caught this summer. But they're trying to communicate is the bottom line. We believe they're trying to communicate with us and show us something or give us clues to either how they move or through not how they maybe move through solid matter, is they're going to have to obviously change their frequency to move through solid matter. And I know that they talk, abductees talk a lot about this, where they're pulled through walls, they're pulled through, solid objects, and how could craft, which we have videoed, look like they're coming straight out of a mountain. So we believe that they're trying to show us their, our resonance, and then also that they can change theirs to be able to go through our matter.
It's very interesting, and you hear a lot of stories about spacecraft around mountains or lake areas, and like you said, they just kind of move through the rock matter, and perhaps they have some sort of little base going on there. I don't know what's going on. I heard a story about a lake near, Lake Titicaca in that area, and this UFO was seen coming out of the water. I don't know, are those USOs? I can't remember what exactly they call those, but it actually sucked up a bunch of water, and it made the lake drop, and this is a very large lake. It made the lake's water level drop about 8 inches. So people are seeing this, they're blown away by what's happening, and it makes you wonder what exactly they're using the water for. Is it for music?
Anything like that, but we definitely had quite a few discussions with him about it. And it's interesting how what reason would they need the water? I have no idea, but lots of species need it to live. So you never know, they might use it for themselves. I'm sure they do, or maybe possibly for their craft as well.
Right, and even in the paranormal field, people have said places that are near rivers have different energy flows than houses that aren't, and they've done studies that show that the dirtier the water is, the better it is for conducting energy, and so that's interesting as well.
The dirtier the water, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that before. I do believe that you can get what are called earth lights. I've heard about earth lights running along fault lines, where you've got a thought, though, about the Morse code. I don't think that they haven't really shown us any patterns that we could, that we could figure out. No, it's never been like a pattern of flashes like that. Going back to them moving through solid matter and possibly having bases under lakes or mountains or anything like that. I have heard stories about that, yes. There are several stories about alien bases underneath mountains and how they access those bases. I mean, they would have to not dematerialize so much as that they would have to give off a frequency that's in their craft to where they can dissolve basically through matter. That's an interesting topic. Up at Mount Baker, there is a mountain called Goat Mountain, and it has in the side of this mountain, and we've seen it on some pictures, and I've tried to investigate this location. It looks like a door in the side of this mountain. it's a sheer rock face, and then it steps back into this round hole, and there's rock behind it, but it actually looks like it's a separate piece of rock, like it looks like a doorway. So maybe that is an entrance to some sort of an underground base or something like that. We took our drone. We have a drone. We took it up there last year to see if we could fly it up to this door, and I kept losing connectivity as we got closer to what we call the door, a hidden door or whatever. It kept losing connectivity to the remote. and I kept having to try to pull it back, and it would get stuck there. And that was pretty freaky. It happened like 3 times or so. So I don't know that there's a base, or if it just got too far out of range, or whatever the case may be, but that was an interesting happening in that location. But there's video of that. I just haven't put it together.
Why do you think they're drawn to mountainous areas?
Okay, so the magma chamber, if you want to get into this, I believe the magma chamber is like a reservoir of magma that gets heated from below. But I also believe it's like a river, right? The magma flows like a river does, and it's got its yetis, and it's got its flows around, water's flowing around different rocks in a different way. And sometimes you can get what's like a tidal pool, or not so much a tidal pool, but like an area where the magma is swirling in a certain direction. So if you've got all this magma flowing clockwise, that's going to create a magnetic station. So maybe they're using that magnetic field maybe to jump from one place to another, or they can somehow feed off of that energy somehow to replenish their craft. I have no idea, but that's just a thought that I came up with a while back. Is that magma just sits there and spins and spins, which I think is a magnetic field.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We actually have a call from area code 306. Who are we talking to?
Hello, Tessa. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm not sure. Okay, I will talk about the magnets for a minute. Yes, I believe that magnets are really essential from the the North Pole. That's why all the compasses point north, because that's magnetic north, and there's no South Pole. Anyways, this is Ronald, and I'm just very curious why the heck you kicked me off your show. I'm trying to be the nice guy, but I get things from all angles and arrows and snakes tossed at me. And, this is therapy for me to listen to you. But
Just basically trying to figure it out with all its settings and whatnot. And I captured 2 UFOs flying over my house. And it's just nuts how just a random event like that will happen. The majority of the time we film at night. I mean, that's just what we do. What we've always done, and never really thought about filming during the day. But lately we were contacted by a person who had seen some UFOs around SeaTac Airport. We're not too far away from SeaTac Airport. We're actually pretty close. So that piqued our interest because of all the different stories we've heard about UFOs, coming down towards the airport and then shooting back up in the sky and leaving holes in the sky and that sort of thing, or through the clouds. And so we were like, well, let's go up to the airport and film to see if we can capture anything. That happened about a month ago, but we didn't capture anything. But she keeps sending us footage of these objects that she's capturing. So it's interesting that these things are happening in our skies, possibly even around airports. And some people are seeing them and other people are not. And it makes me wonder how many pilots out there really know, more than they're able to say.
I believe it was Kurt Russell that actually called into the flight tower. I believe it was in Phoenix, and he actually mentioned that he was seeing a UFO craft there. So that was pretty interesting as well, that he had done that.
It is interesting, and maybe he wasn't versed on, what the protocols are or whatever, but that's, I think a lot of pilots are worried about losing their license if they report such things, so they just keep it quiet. But there's been several videos on YouTube where passengers will videotape stuff that's going on during the day outside of an airplane. So that's pretty interesting in the fact that if they wanted to hurt us, they could. They could hurt us without basically lifting a finger, but they don't. So obviously they're not here to harm us. So I don't know. That's one that we're going to have to research some more, especially here around SeaTac.
For sure. And we actually had a call trying to come in, but for some reason the Skype isn't wanting to work. So in the past I've tried actually hanging up on the guest, calling the person, then adding the guest back on. So if you want to try that, we can do that.
Well, I have no idea what you. If you want to try that, that's fine. That's fine. We can also go into some of the other stuff that we did down at East Eddy Ranch. They have down there. This is James Gillian's ranch again, but we were down there for two nights. And so during the day, we were researching, running around the camp, talking to people and asking them what they had seen, and also using the Tesla meter and different devices, EMF meters and different things that we have around the land to see if we were picking up anything. And there's a stone circle out there out on the ranch, just past what they call Skywatch Field. And in this stone field, or the stone circle, we were getting weird anomalies. It was like a blob of energy. With the Tesla meter, we could read it. We could pick up on it. And it was as it would move around within the stone field as we would walk, and we would lose track of it, and we'd go back and we would find it, and it would move again. And it was just the weirdest thing. It was almost like it was following us and then backing away from us and then moving towards us. I don't know if it was spirit energy that we're picking up there, but that was pretty eye-opening, because we haven't really dipped into much of anything other than researching UFOs. I mean, we have interest within the group in researching other things, but that was the first time we would actually, I would say that we were actually trying to investigate something at a spiritual nature, of a spiritual nature.
Went into his office, had his elbows on the desk and his hands, his face in his hands, and he was sobbing. And it makes you wonder, what did they disclose to him? Why would he be sad about it? You would think it would be something exciting, but maybe there's something on the back burner they know that we aren't privy to.
Yeah, that's crazy. I actually hadn't heard that story before. It's interesting to hear that he was sobbing. I don't know why. I would gather, going back to the different races again, gather maybe we're trying to be kept under wraps or kept trapped here on the planet. I mean, we haven't gone back to the moon yet, really. And, I don't know if that's a reason to cry, but I think maybe we are being trapped by one civilization and trying to be set free by another.
Right. And Ronald Reagan was the only other president that had shared his UFO experience. And like you were saying, aircraft, they're up in the sky. There's so many different things that you see, not only on the land, but in the air. And Ronald Reagan had mentioned that he and others on Air Force One had seen a light in the sky that moved towards them in a quick fashion in a zigzag pattern. At that time, we didn't have anything that could move like that. And he actually accidentally shared this information with, of all things, a reporter that was sitting next to him. And this reporter was like, "Mr. President, are you actually telling me that you believe in UFOs?" And that's when Ronald Reagan realized what he had said to him, and he recanted by saying, "Well, we're not sure what we saw, but it was interesting."
Yeah, that's fantastic. Actually, I wonder if he even knew he was a reporter at the time. Yeah, I guess he would, because I think they have to wear like a press pass or something on their lapel. But it's phenomenal. Let's go back to Baker for a minute, because I think that we can tie this in pretty good. There was a company that came into Glacier, Washington, to set up a battery backup system for their power, because they lose power all the time. During the winter, during the fall, when there's heavy storms and that sort of thing. But all these trucks were coming into town, even a lot of Border Patrol. We hadn't noticed. We go up there every year. We hadn't noticed Border Patrol up there at all. And now, all of a sudden, they've got Border Patrol running up and down the roads, up in the logging roads and everything. And they've set up cameras, too, on different logging roads as well. And we've had people talk to us about this, and it's a place of high strangeness. Let's say that. Definitely. With all the UFO sightings by the people that live up there, we're friends with quite a few of them. But we're wondering as well as if the government isn't watching out for that as just as much, or even more than the town folk and we are. They might have a secret base up there. There's a lot of road construction 2 years ago up there that lasted quite a long time, and then with all the heavy traffic, the Border Patrol and different cellular companies, at least they were listed as different cellular companies, and they still don't have cellular all the way down the highway. So it's interesting to try to think about what might be happening up there, but it is an interesting place to go if you want to view UFOs. Even in some of the climbing websites that I look at, because I'm an avid outdoorsman, I look at climbing stuff. They mention the UFOs up there as well in that location. So it's definitely a hot spot. If anybody's interested in actually going out and seeing their own, or having their own UFO, seeing their own UFO, that's where they can go. They go up to Artist Point and look towards Canada at night, and it's probably better than 50% chance that you're going to see something that you won't be able to explain.
Yeah, Washington is definitely an interesting state, and there's been different things that happen there. I know when I lived in Marysville, Washington, my aunts had taken us out, and they told us about this story of this light that's seen in this specific area. And I guess there used to be an old trail there, but you can see lights upon the mountain. It makes you wonder, is that paranormal, or is that UFOs? Which is under the umbrella of the paranormal as far as I'm concerned. But also they have a book that is federally produced about each state, and for Washington State, as one of the creatures they have in there, they have Sasquatch. No other state that I know of has done that, but it's actually in the book as a species of Washington State. And they also have, rules and laws regarding Sasquatch, as far as you're not allowed to shoot at them, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. We're definitely We definitely would like to get into doing some Sasquatching. I really, with all the equipment and gear that we have, I'm sure we can apply a lot of it towards that field. That is a topic for another day. I've got another interview coming up with some other people about that very subject, about using some of our tech in helping look for Sasquatch. I've had my own, I would say, encounters with something that I can't explain out there in the woods. I'm not ready to say that it's Sasquatch. I wouldn't say that I'm not a believer either, because of the things that have happened. But it's definitely worth our attention as far as the UFOiTeam is concerned, because we do have a lot of people that are involved in the team that would like to do that sort of work as well. We don't have anybody yet that we would say that's qualified for evidence gathering yet. We don't have anybody on board that does that work yet, but we would like to find somebody that would be interested in doing that piece for sure. Washington State is a hub, a mecca of paranormal. That's for sure.
Do you guys have FLIR cameras in your equipment, and have you had any luck picking up on UFOs with that?
So the answer to that is yes, we do. We have, Dave Mason has several, I think one or two might actually be from the company FLIR, but most of them are a different brand, but they're all the infrared cameras. Or FLIR just stands for forward-looking infrared. So, but yeah, we do deploy several of those. I have an infrared camera myself, and we use those on most of our night watches, and we do capture stuff with them. What's interesting is Dave has got several of them that their temperature range is lower than most of the ones that are produced these days. So he's able to pick up things that are colder in the night sky than, say, I would with a newer piece of equipment. The only problem is that the older equipment, its resolution isn't as great, but he's still able to capture things in the sky that my cameras won't, and vice versa.
Does a UFO show up on the FLIR camera as a hot spot in the sky, or does it appear colder?
A lot of the times it's going to show up colder, which is interesting to us as well. So he captures stuff that is mostly like triangle-shaped craft, and a lot of the time it will be following commercial aircraft. So he likes to set up his gear when we're not doing an event. He'll set it up in his backyard, and he'll just let it do its thing. He'll just walk away from his equipment and let it record, and then he reviews his stuff later. But he has caught on several occasions craft following behind commercial aircraft, yes.
That's interesting.
Those videos can also be seen on our Facebook page. It is interesting. Why are they following our craft? Or, what is their... I mean, obviously, like we said before, the intent is not, there's no malicious intent there.
Yeah, so, it makes you wonder, what are they trying to find? What are they interested in?
Yeah, I mean, it's the only thing, and I'm going to keep going back to that, is that they're trying to advance us in some way. I think with the cell phones and the other technology we deploy, maybe it's actually having a dampening effect on what we might be capable of, if that makes any sense. With Bluetooth and with Wi-Fi and with your cell phones and all the different things that we're emitting all the time, with our technology, if that's having a dampening effect on us as humans. And if we were able to get to a place where we didn't have that, maybe we would be able to perceive things differently.
We actually have area code 661 trying to call again, and I hate to miss any callers. I don't know what Skype still is right now, but I'm going to call this number and add you to that call. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
Alrighty. See you in a sec.
Hello?
Hello, this is TessaTNT with We Are Paradox Media. For some reason, Skype is not taking your call, so I wanted to call you back. I didn't want to miss you.
Oh, how you doing? Yeah, I found out some more stuff, Tessa, about the elements and stuff. I did some research in Texas. I was in Texas, and I went in a cotton field, man. You ever been in a cotton field?
Yes.
When it's white and camped out in the cotton field, it's weird. It's some paranormal stuff going in the cotton field. Well, cotton is an element, okay? Everything that you see is an element. I mean, leaves, ground, the sand. I mean, everything is an element. You know how, like that movie, are we on the show now?
Yes, we are on the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and so, but I found out, the main thing I found out, you're going to freak out. All right, for Halloween, I decided to bind off these demons because I can't stop these things from hurting me, right? These bad spirits, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I bounded them up. I figured a way to do it, So once I found out it worked, because right when I did it, it happens like bam. Like right when I do it, it happens really quickly. And so I decided to bind up a saw because I've been watching these demons and stuff sawing humans up, right? So I bound up the saw, and the next morning I'm driving and I see this spirit in the cloud. He looked human. And he said, "Who bounded up my saw? I've been cutting mankind's hands and feet and body parts up, and that's my job. Now, who bounded my saw?" Whatever. So I found that out. This is because, see, when you see the spirit world, you only see 1% or even less than that, But I got some, I've been fighting these bad spirits. And another thing I found out about the elements about cotton, cotton is an element. When you burn a white candle, it catches on fire in the spirit world. And one of this cotton seed, cotton or whatever, I was talking to the spirit in the cotton, and they said that the element of cotton is a lost knowledge that the human race has forgotten, or, whatever, that God created cotton to fight against the demon world, So I got some good information with that, But I've been pouring salt around my car, and then I use coffee. I found out coffee is an element that they can't stand coffee grounds, like ground up coffee.
Uh-huh.
And I spread it on them, and this salt or this coffee, whatever gets on them, they can't stand it. They can't, it does something to them. And so I've been doing that. I've been finding out about that element, and then I took cotton and I threw it up in the air. I picked the cotton up, and I would throw it up in the air, and it what happens was, when I'm pouring salt or coffee, I'm up there in heaven pouring coffee and salt too. So when I pour it, I'm up there doing the same thing. It's weird because everywhere around me I see spirits saying, "He's pouring salt on me, he's pouring salt on me." So I know I'm up there somewhere, and they're trying to kill me here, and they're trying to kill me up there too, because I'm way up there in heaven. And so I started throwing this cotton in the air. And this cotton is like a living being. It's like a human or whatever, just like animals are human, right? And cotton started attacking these spirits, in the clouds or whatever. And it was amazing. And then what I did was I found some seeds. Someone dumped some seeds at a truck stop, and I put them all in my car, a whole bunch of them in my back seat. I mean, I put as much as I could in bags and stuff in my trunk. And I started pouring the cotton seeds all around my car. So these cotton seeds from heaven was coming down, attacking these demons and stuff. It's amazing.
So we have Lee Strauss on the show tonight, and he's been telling us about UFOs and encounters that he's been having. Have you had any experience with UFOs or aliens? And did you have a question for our guest tonight?
Oh, yeah, I do research with aliens and stuff. I was in Utah. There's a bigger base in Utah that they land in Salt Lake City. And it's kind of like Area 51. You can't go around the salt flats or whatever. It's got all these signs saying you can't, trespass. This is government land or whatever. And that's one of the biggest bases that I know of. I mean, and then you got the salt, but they're everywhere. I mean, even Michigan, I ran into some praying mantis ones, like 20 foot tall, come down, 2 of them, behind my car, and I had to get the heck out of there. I left. I mean, they were big, too. And you couldn't see their body, but you could only see their face. They looked like praying mantises. So, I believe every word anybody says about UFOs, because I've been doing a lot of research on that, too. But I'm wondering, is anybody going to start fighting these things? Because I'm fighting.
Well, we haven't had a reason to fight against anything that we've come in contact with. It's all been pretty malevolent so far.
Well, the moon is an evil war planet, dude. I mean, I'm the one that sees. I see invisible dimensions. The human race is a blind human race, blind planet, slave planet. And when they took over the Earth, they put us in zero civilization. And a lot of people are not telling y'all that. I mean, they do have good aliens. I'm with the good aliens. I'm one of the messengers of the good aliens. But they can't get close to the Earth to help us like they really want to, because that moon is still there. And that's the warship. That's a war planet. And they're evil. They're really evil, dude. I mean, but I need help to bind these saws up, because they're still sawing humans. I mean, as long as I see them doing that, I know the good aliens ain't here yet,
Well, so far, we haven't had anything negative happen to us or group. We did have a gentleman that did have an encounter and decided to fight back, and that was just his gut reaction. I don't think that they were going to hurt him necessarily, but he was frightened enough where he did fight back.
Yeah, well, a lot of these abductions, they do a lot of evil things. A lot of these cow mutilations and human mutilations. Have you seen all the evidence of all the human mutilations that they've been finding?
Well, I've heard a lot about that, but actually just recently the cattle mutilations have started again. It makes me wonder, what do they need those parts for?
Well, they're doing it to humans, too. They're trying to hide. The government's been trying to hide this. They don't want people to know. Because they made a deal. See, the bad thing is they made a deal with these evil aliens, but I don't think they knew they were evil. These aliens are demonic, bro. I mean evil. They do very evil experiments on humans, and the government made a deal where they could abduct homeless people. Now, I knew this years ago, and I went to a homeless shelter one time when I was doing research on my motorbike. I saw the second night. I saw two aliens. No, three of them. One of them was on my left side, had my hand, was holding on to my hand, sucking my energy. My hand was going numb. The other two was scanning my legs like some kind of robots. You know how they were half human, no, half alien, and half mechanical like, because their eyes were like scanning my legs. Now I could have been up in a spaceship because they have this technology where what they call it, photo imaging, where everything looks like where you at, like you're in the car, you think you're in the car, but you're not in the car.
Right.
They have technology like that.
Yeah, I believe you're right about that. There's been plenty of evidence to show that that's fact. From people not seeing things next to somebody that is seeing something. So I believe you're right there for sure.
Yeah, well, look at my Open Eye project. I talked to Tessa before on Spaced Out Radio and stuff, and but I'm teaching humans how to see the invisible dimension. I see them in the clouds. I see them in the trees. I actually saw a super soldier this summer. I was in a desert, and I think they wanted to test me maybe because the dude walked 50 yards in front of me. And as he was walking, he was in between invisible and, invisible. He was in between it. But once he got across the road and stopped in the bushes, he was completely invisible. But I think they were testing their equipment to see if I could see them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we do have to go to our second musical break. Thanks so much, Neil, for calling in. And we can continue into the break with the conversation there. But on this break, we have Miss Tracy Cruz from the California Bay Area with Flowers and Candy, Joyful Rain. And then we also have Prime Example with My Inspiration. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this musical break.
When I met you, my life changed. Your love rained all over me. It was blissful, so special, essential. Life poetry, true beauty. We created, we made it. Reality, pure affection with expression. A connection was meant to be. You make me feel so good inside, like therapy for my mind. You make me feel so good inside. It was like flowers and candy, understanding how you're standing really must be love. I'm talking true, I'm talking real, and I felt it in my heart. It was like flowers and candy, understanding how you're standing really must be love. I'm talking true, I'm talking real, and I felt it in my heart and soul. You make me feel so good inside. You make me feel so good inside. Now what is this that's happening? I don't even know you anymore. Oh, yeah. Changes moving through everything. Yeah. And I don't even know what we're fighting for. Our bright days turn to sleepless nights. our loving ways have turned to endless fights, and we can't seem to compromise. We try so hard to make things right. Yesterday, we'll erase all the turns. Can't we turn back? Hands on side. You are my life.
What is really happening?
Changes are moving through everything. Changes. I will accept you for who you are, all your flaws and your scars. Because I love you too much to let you go. You help me grow. I will accept you for who you are, all your flaws. Because I love you too much to let you go. You help me grow. I will accept you for who you are, all your flaws and your scars. Because I love you too much to let you go. Your love flows through me like water from the rain. It flows right through me. You've cleansed my soul and washed away all the pain. You wash every part. Your love lifts higher than all of the stars in the sky. So high. I made a wish on you to be by my side. You loving me, I feel like flying. You loving me, I feel like crying. Tears of joy fall from
you smile, I see the life in your eyes. I hear the rhythm of you, creating moments we chill to. Wrapped in the waves of emotion, it's imperative. We're making love to your mind. It's like the feel of your thighs on my back when I'm deep in consummation with you in the room. It's not the scent of your breath in my face when we touch and share the rhythm of a loving embrace. Yeah. It's your smile that lets me know I'm on point, that I have written the word in this joint, and it's you. Pretty brown eyes and confidence, you're my ministry, and girl, I'm feeling it. Come on, so smile for me, and don't let my hand go, girl. I just want you to know when I'm sending my love to you in verse 2 with a kiss and a beat that you and I can step to. Come on. God created the heavens and the earth. What he said is very best for the day of your birth. No longer is it just me, myself, and I. But since you have arrived, you're the apple of my eye, girl. Open your heart and let me come inside. All this love is forever for the ride. And when that DJ played our favorite song, we dance the night away until we're heading home where we're holding each other.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for listening to us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Right now we are joined by Lee Strauss, and we have caller Neil Robichaud on the line. Welcome back, fellas.
Welcome, yeah. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
So, Neil, we were just talking on the break, and like I had said, you had called me a while back while I was on a security job, and you were telling me about this case you were going to go check out back east. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that? Is that an alien thing, or is that some sort of other paranormal thing going on?
Well, I think it was the alien thing because what happened was he was walking in that field, it was Orion Williamson, and something about this guy, the aliens wanted to kill and destroy or put him in a black void or whatever, because the mother and the child would go out there and could still hear him talking, and these people searched all over the place. They had eyewitnesses seeing him walking in the field, and then all at once he disappeared, vanished. But he was actually still there. I think it was alien technology or whatever, because everything that was around a year later or whatever, I think it was, everything that's in that circle where he was is dead. It's all the grass can't grow or whatever. So I think it was some kind of weird trap, like capsule or something. And the aliens, they couldn't stop him physically or spiritually. So they had to put him in you ever seen the movies where they put him in a void, some kind of void thing?
Mm-hmm.
A trap, like a trap thing? I think that's what it was.
Sounds like almost like a time slip, if that's what it would be called. You hear about these missing people that they were there one minute and you turn around and then you turn back and they're gone. It almost sounds something It almost sounds like something like that, like maybe a time slip or a dimensional shift or something.
Yeah, but he was still there. They could still hear him. They were talking to him and stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
But
definitely.
see, aliens got technology like that. I think he was very important to the human race, and the only way they could stop him, like spiritually, is to trap him like what they did. I'm surprised they didn't do that to me yet, because I'm fighting back. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't even do that to me. I mean, the thing is, I got a black SUV snuck up on me 2 nights ago and then turned on his siren. I mean, he got so close. I mean, someone's trying to shut me up or tell me to shut up, whatever.
Right.
I'm getting too close to the deep state or the CIA stuff, where they're saying, look, you better shut up. But I'm serious. I want to kill somebody like that. I mean, you don't drive up on my car, get so close where I can't open my door and shine a flashlight at me, because that could have been a gun. And then turn your siren on and just haul butt leaving. If I had a gun, ready, I would have opened fire on that car. Really. I would have emptied my clip out. I would have shot all of the bullets out.
Sounds like it freaked you out. But thanks so much for calling in tonight, Neil. It was good talking to you and hearing what's been going on in your neck of the woods. Very intriguing indeed.
Yeah. Thank you. Talk with you later.
All right. Have a good night, Mr. Robichaux.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. So Nikki in the chat room, Lee, had a question, and she is asking, what does Lee think about these ships which are following commercial airlines? Could it be possible if these UFOs are following due to one or more abductees who may be on the commercial airlines? What are your thoughts about the subject, Lee?
Well, yeah, I mean, that is definitely a possibility. I mean, it seems like certain people attract these UFOs. We've got a couple different abductees in our group, and it seems like when you get a cluster of them together, there's a lot of activity that happens for sure. Yeah, I think the abductees, I think what the aliens are doing and how they can pull information away from their subjects is probably along the lines of using their brain waves. Everybody thinks a certain way, maybe, and it's like a fingerprint, right? So if you have the fingerprint attached to you, they could follow you wherever you are. They don't necessarily need, I wouldn't believe that they would need an implant or anything like that, because you've got like a psychic fingerprint that follows you wherever you are. It's attached to you basically in some way. It's just like the way you think is different than the way somebody else thinks, and so we all have like this little signal that runs around with us wherever we're at. They can pick up on it and follow you around if they want to.
And we had actually touched a little bit on cattle mutilations, etc. Nikki was also wondering, how many years has it been between the last major animal mutilations and these current ones that ranchers have been talking about?
Well, I don't know how long it's been, but I think the last, there's been major die-offs of species, like a bunch of birds will die and fall to the ground, and like elk, they believe that it's like a lightning strike or whatever. But I think as far as the cattle mutilations, I think the last ones were in 1980 something, and I have no idea why an alien species, if they're so much more advanced, would need plasma or these sorts of things from animals when they can, recreate the DNA and make it in their petri dish and divide cells and, multiply cells and do all those sorts of things. Why would they need cows unless they're using parts of the cow to figure out, what things on Earth are affecting them, affecting the cows. And they're trying to figure out, like what the pesticides are that we're using and what they're for and why we're damaging our planet with those sorts of things. And maybe they're using the cows as test samples.
Yeah, it's interesting the different parts that they are taking and the precision at which they are taking them. It's somewhat laser-like, they're saying, the cuttings and such. And it makes you scratch your head when you think about the different parts that they are taking, like cow lips, or you see these clean holes cut in the side of the cow and certain parts are missing. A lot of times
like
it's... Yeah, or reproductive organs, and cow lips. What do you need with cow lips? But like you said, perhaps it's because they are eating the grass and these different things, and perhaps they can test, like the pesticides and such, that their lips are coming in contact with. I can't think of any other reason that they would want that.
Right. Exactly. It's a conundrum. I mean, you take all of this information and you try to figure out what's the reason that these things are happening. And I truly do believe that they're interested in what we're doing to ourselves, to our animals, to the plants, and to our planet. And I think that's a big concern of theirs.
Yeah, there's so many crazy things we put into our environment and what we're using on our food that we actually end up ingesting. Why do we do that?
Exactly. It's so crazy. Just like the things you like, Febreze, for instance, or different things that you use in your home. You don't even know how that affects, how that's affecting you, right? I mean, your dryer sheets. I mean, things that you don't think of, the soaps that you use and the hairsprays and all of that. You don't know what that's really doing to you. And I think maybe they're interested to see what it is it's doing to us, what it is for. It's their, their curiosity as well. Yeah.
So what else in the UFO field would you like to talk about this last hour that we have together?
Well, I didn't touch on everything about, I don't know how you feel about talking about the James Gillian Ranch at all, but I think it's an interesting place to go if you want to see UFOs in Washington. There's a lot of places to go if you're interested in that sort of thing. It's not too difficult if you've got a volcano in your state. I mean, that's where you'd want to go to view some anomalous stuff. But James Gillian's Ranch is an awesome place to go. When you step onto his property, you know it right away that you're in a different environment, because everybody that goes there has, rubs off on the land, basically. Everybody's in a positive environment. Everybody's happy. There's all this stuff, that they're really trying to help people, like, see the world for what it is and heal people as well there, right? So when I went there the first time, I noticed that they were talking about, people at the Skywatch were talking about the lights on the mountain. What are the lights on the mountain? Well, I've climbed Mount Adams twice, and I can tell you, they point out a lot of stuff that is, the climbers on the climbing route. So there's a little bit of that goes on, and I think it's just people that are educated enough to know and do a little bit of research, look at Google Earth, and realize that there's roads up there, that there's, camping grounds and that sort of thing. But as far as his land and his property and that sort of thing, I like going there a lot, and I think it's an awesome experience that people should have.
For sure. There's this lady out here in southeastern Colorado, just outside of Alamosa, and she actually bought a lot of property and was wanting to raise cattle, so on and so forth, but that didn't work out too well for her. But in the meantime, there was a lot of UFO sightings, so on and so forth going on, so she got rid of the cattle and then ended up building this platform where people can go, and they can even camp out and go and try to have their own UFO sighting and experience. So that's pretty cool, and it's all over the world. Everybody's having sightings, and it seems like there's more and more happening.
It does seem like there's more and more. Even in our research, we've noticed more and more people come to us showing us their footage and their stuff and wanting us to do a little bit of research too. With them, they'd like to go on, sky watches with us. We work with Peter Davenport. Michael does quite a bit, and he talks to Michael about sightings and so forth, and what's been going on in the area, in our area that we can drive to and view or do research on. So it's not just about us going out there and trying to find something. It's also about going out there, meeting people and listening to their stories and trying to figure those things out as well. We have a sketch artist on board as well, Brian Snowdy, who's a famous artist, does a lot of work with the magic cards and stuff like that. And he's just excellent. We've done a couple of different UFO events where we brought the group down and showed the public, our gear and what we do and that sort of thing. And that's really fun. That's been a blast, meeting new people. And it seems like once you get like a crowd of people, they just tend to follow you wherever you go. You know what I mean? So if you're in Oregon doing a UFO event, and then they'll follow you back to, like, if you're at Ocean Shores doing an event in Washington, they'll see you there, and they'll, so it's quite interesting. Within the 3 years that we've become the UFOiTeam, us little four of us that started this whole thing, it's fun to have those fans kind of follow you around and keep track of what you're doing. It's neat.
Right.
Definitely neat.
Gives you a different perspective.
Yeah, and it's nothing I ever expected to be involved with. Let me tell you, I've always I've worked construction for the same company for the last 26 years, and I really never saw myself getting into this sort of thing on my off time, but here I am, and that's what I do. But, we can get into that a little bit. I have to make sure that I separate what I do from my work. It's very important for my company that I separate the two things. They told me so because they don't want to be looked down upon because one of their employees is involved with this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's been a difficult challenge for me over the last 7-8 years, but I've been able to integrate it pretty well. And
yeah, very important.
Just keep moving forward.
Yeah, and sometimes, people forget how close-minded other people are and how it can affect your professional life. And it's sad, but hopefully one day we'll all have experiences and be just as open-minded. Nikki's asking Lee, regarding the amount of footage you have, do you still need help viewing it all via other photographers or other people?
See, that's the thing. When you get comfortable with a piece of equipment, you know what to look for. A lot of the time, if you farm stuff out like that, you'll have a lot of people that don't know what to look for because they haven't been viewing the sky through the piece of gear that you're using. It takes a lot of time to, I've made mistakes in the past. I'll be the first one to admit it, that what I thought was one thing turned out to be another, just because of the time that it takes to learn the piece of equipment and what it's seeing versus what another piece of equipment is seeing that you've been using for a longer amount of time. So it's been a roller coaster ride from seeing certain things, certain types of shooting stars, let's say, in the sky, where with the time lapse it does one thing, and in film it's actually doing another thing. So it's hard to integrate all that stuff into basically knowing what you're looking at. So if I start farming this stuff out, all this footage, I don't think that people are really gonna. I would say there'd be a lot of false hits, which might be okay though, because if they're saying, well, at 4 minutes and 53 seconds, there was something. That's all I do. When I get my camera back and I take the chip out and put it into the computer, all I'll do is I'll just sit in front of the computer and then I start writing down times where I see something, right? And then I'll go back and start reviewing those and then putting those into a separate file. And it takes a lot of time. You got 6 cameras going at, any given night, and you're night watching for 6 hours. You can just think about how much time that takes to review all that footage. It's ridiculous, but
do you think eventually you guys might have it set up to where the cameras feed into, say, a laptop or some sort of setup that you have with somebody actually sitting, perhaps 1 or 2 people sitting and monitoring all the screens to see if they can find something in real time, and then you can go back and check that out at a later date? I think that would help to take down all that tech work. It's very complicated.
Yeah, so on my rig, I've got 4 cameras. 3 of them are on all the time. And those 3 cameras have monitors, 7-inch monitors that are basically sitting right in front of me. I don't spend a lot of time looking at the sky. I just spend a lot of time looking at those monitors. And what that does to you during the night, it makes you night blind. You can't see. If you pull your eye away from the monitor, you can't see a darn thing.
Right.
For couple of seconds anyway. So that's why we use a spotter at night. We use a spotter to spot things so that I don't have to look at the sky and I can just watch the monitors. And he's got, like I said before, he's got a laser, so he's able to pinpoint things for me. And we don't laser the object. That is critical. We do not laser the object. We always use the laser and circle the object. Because if you just accidentally hit upon a commercial aircraft or something like that, you just don't want to do that.
Right.
Right. So, would I ever use anybody else to view footage? I've tried that before. I used a friend of mine. I sent him a bunch of footage, and he gave up within the first hour. He's like, no way, because it is just, that's the worst part about it. The night watches are are a blast, you know, and you got a group of people that are all having fun. You know, a lot of the times I'll cook for the whole crew. You know, I'll bring my smoker out, which is basically like a barbecue that you can smoke with, and I'll make steaks or whatever for the whole crew, and we have a blast.
Sounds amazing. Can I go?
Yeah. It's a good time. It's fun. It's definitely, you know, and I think maybe that has something to do with why we capture, maybe because we're always in a good mood. We're having a blast, and maybe that's part of the experience for them as well. Maybe they're just interested in these people that are having a good time. I don't know.
And it's so true on so many different levels. As far as with humans, you know, people are attracted to happiness. So perhaps it's the same with aliens and such.
Yeah, maybe it is. I don't think that they experience, well, I wouldn't imagine they experience the same types of feelings we have or express them in any, you know, in the same way we do. But I think for them, it's just, you know, it's about learning and educating themselves. And in turn, we get to learn something, but it always seems like time in and time, you know, it always seems like we have more questions mounting than we're getting answers. But that's just the nature of the beast. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? You know? And then it seems like sometimes when we do get an answer, it's not a full answer, and it just leads to more questions. Maybe someday we'll figure something out.
Right. Well, and it's cool that there's more and more people that are open to it and that are wanting answers and gathering that information. I think the more information we gather, the more disclosure we'll have. But it's hard these days with all of the different editing software that people can actually easily falsify a claim, as opposed to back in the day when you really had to work on that as far as photography and such.
Yeah, and that's why we deploy multiple cameras too, is because we don't want somebody to tell us, well, that's not real, or you've made that on a computer. But if you've got the footage on a couple different cameras, maybe at different telephoto lengths, I mean, it's more believable that way, right? If you're looking at the same object through, you know, two different cameras at different ranges or different locations even. So that's why we deploy so many cameras in the first place. We've you know, argued with people about our footage being real or fake before, and I definitely don't like, you know, being or my footage being called a lie or a joke or whatever. So a lot of people just try to disclaim it as one thing when, you know, it's not. A lot of people will say, well, that's just a shooting star. Well, shooting stars have tails most of the time. And, you know, when you've got a light in the sky that shoots across the sky at unbelievable speeds and then does a 90-degree turn and all these things, well, you can't be shooting stars. But that's what some people just don't want to believe it. And they'll come up with anything that they can, swamp gas, to discredit what you have.
Yeah, and when they say that, like, well, that's just swamp gas that you saw, or, you know, the light reflecting from Venus, so on and so forth. And a lot of times, like in my case, we don't have swamps around here, and different things like that going on. So, you know, what's the excuse then? So what are your thoughts on our government, why they are keeping these things from us?
Why? I think they're they're worried about putting us all into a panic, for one, and I think they want the control over us. So that's the reason I think they're keeping it to themselves. If they can control that thing, then they can control us with it. I think,
Right.
It's really too bad, actually. I think we have a lot to learn from them, from the government, but also from the aliens. The things that they can help us with, the technology that I'm sure our government has, but we do not have. We're kept in the dark.
Christopher just called in. Hey, Christopher, how's it going?
All right. I had a couple of dreams related to UFOs, things like that. They're pretty long and drawn out.
You've had dreams, you say?
Yeah, about one actually being on a space station with artificial atmosphere and gravity.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that one I want to share. It was a really large space station, like a habitat, way distant in the future, And I was a staff member on the station, and one of my duties was to go down to the bottom of the lower floors to do maintenance. And at one time I went up, I was at the center of the station. I was at the top, but it looked like I was in the clouds. It was in the middle of the station where the artificial atmosphere was. And down at the bottom, it was dark and very eerie, almost like haunted. But at the top, it was like I was up in the sky. And all around me, it was like all these different habitats and grass and rivers.
Okay. So have you seen that movie Elysium?
Yes. Recently, yes. This dream was like 10 years ago, and
okay.
And when I saw,
so would it be something akin to that then?
Yes.
That's interesting. Do you think that you might have been possibly taken while you were asleep, or do you think that this was just plainly a dream?
I think I was taken, but it was not a negative taken. I didn't feel negative at all.
So when you woke up the next morning from this dream, did you feel like you were really out of sorts all day, or did you feel like
I felt like I was in a fog.
Yeah, fog all day long after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't feel fearful at all. That's the thing. I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah. And were you sad to be back here?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. That's definitely interesting.
And I've been on a planet before too. And kind of like a purplish blue atmosphere, very oxygenated.
Okay.
And it was lush. The greenery.
Yeah.
A lot of purple leaves and also green leaves, trees and flowers and plants.
Uh-huh.
And the star was reddish, like a red dwarf.
Interesting. Well, that's, one of my thoughts is maybe that our soul doesn't live just one life, that it lives multiple lives and possibly living multiple lives at the same time. So maybe you're pulling in, another life from another reality.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And I believe this universe has a lot out there that we don't know yet.
Right. Yep. There's so much out there. We learn stuff all the time.
We finally are realizing that that this type of planet we're sitting on is not so rare.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
pretty common to have Earth-like planets.
Yeah. You know what's really strange is the fact that there is microbes out there in space floating around everywhere, just constantly bombarding our planet, bombarding the moon, bombarding everything. I think life is so much more prevalent in space than we're led to believe by our government. I think it's everywhere. I mean, it's panspermia. I think there's so much life out there, it's ridiculous.
Even a little tardigrade, which is from this planet, can survive in space just fine.
Yeah.
You heard of them, right?
The what is it?
Tardigrade, or it's a little microscopic animal that looks like a teddy bear.
Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah, I think I did see a picture of that.
Yeah, it's like a little sea creature thing.
Yes. And they can survive the radiation of space.
Yeah, I just think that there is such an abundance of life, and we don't even we tell our kids that there's no life out there, and that there's it's just this barren wasteland, when really it's probably so populated it would just blow our minds away, that how much life there is out there, and even probably on our own moon, and just life that we don't understand really.
Yeah, actually our C4 is more of a hostile environment to life than in space, because of the pressures.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. Sure.
It's like it has a pressure gradient like found in the gas giants, thousands of pounds per inch.
Yeah. Yep, I can see that for sure.
And they still have life at that pressure level, which is amazing.
Yeah, it is. Life will find a way, no matter what environment you put it in.
Yes. Space is actually, from this elevation, is like half of the distance to the bottom of the sea. So it's less hostile of an environment, actually.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
It's only like it's 7 miles down to the deepest point, and space is equivalent of going up from 3 miles down up to here.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that.
No. How many dreams have you had like this, by the way?
Several, but they're more rare than the ones I have about my ancestry and spirits. Conventional paranormal dreams.
Okay.
I have all sorts.
Okay. Yeah. You ever had those dreams that you felt like you were flying?
Yes, I have. On Earth, and a couple of flying into Earth.
Into Earth, like?
Yeah, like flying to land on Earth, kind of like thing.
Uh-huh. Okay, yeah.
One was a crash landing, like a fireball.
Interesting.
Yes.
So how many times do you think that you've been had dreams where you've been off planet?
Probably more than I can count, because when I was like several years back, I had more of them than I do now about things like that.
Yeah, so they faded over time then?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty typical. I had a lot of the falling dreams when I was younger, but I haven't had anything like that for quite a while.
Yeah, I hated those.
They were scary.
I began to learn not to talk about who I'm connected to by blood, because some people consider some of the royal family to be aliens, which I don't believe, but that's an after-party conversation.
Right.
Yes.
Well, as far as abductions and stuff, Lee, have you ever been abducted? I know there was a case where some of your team members felt like they might have been on certain outings.
I am not going to talk about that portion of things. There's certain things I kind of like to keep under my hat, so to speak. I don't believe that I've been, not that I know of, have been taken on any of the outings that we've gone on, or the sky watches or anything like that. I don't think that I have been, but as far as let's just say that, yeah, there's things that have happened in my life that I can't explain, and I just rather not talk about the possibility of me being an abductee.
Yeah, I don't have any occurrence or memory of having an abduction. When I was working my security job, I'd call my kids at night to, say our good nights and everything. And my kids one night were telling me about a dream they had of a UFO in the backyard, and it was behind 2 tall spruce trees that we have in the back left corner. And Lily said that she and Floyd were going onto the ship, and as they got onto the little ramp, the ship began to rise up into the air, and she said Floyd had jumped off of the ramp, so she did too, and there was an alien that was chasing them through the yard, and Lily was saying how Floyd tripped, and Floyd piped in and said, "I didn't trip, you tripped," and they argued back and forth for a little bit, and then Lily started laughing, and she said, "Do you remember when you jumped on that alien's head? That was so funny." And Floyd started laughing too, and it was like, it wasn't a dream. It actually sounds to me like it was a shared occurrence that they had.
A shared experience, yeah. It definitely does sound like a shared experience. That's a pretty interesting, especially considering the fact that you've had some experiences yourself. This stuff usually, runs in family lines, as far as we can tell, and everything that we've looked at. So,
I'm a total believer in that. I've been looking at the Order of the Black Swan, which is part of my family tree, and there's reports of that from the 9th and 10th century of abductions in southern France and northern Italy.
that's interesting. What did you call this event?
Not an event, but an actual order that believes it believed in abductions from that time period.
Okay.
So the Order of Black Swan.
Black Swan?
Yes.
Well, I've never heard of that, but it's interesting.
Yeah, Europe has its own Europe and Russia has its own UFO history.
Yeah.
As it goes even further back than our own here in the States.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sometime I would love to share with both of you about that, but not. I don't think this purview for this show. This is a different topic, but it's very revealing what you learn about how far back in family lines these UFO events can occur.
Yeah, that is interesting. Both my grandfather and my mother have had their own experiences, and so have my kids. So I don't know how far back in the lineage that goes, but you never know. I mean, that would be really interesting to be able to go back in time and then talk to your great grandparents and see if they had any sightings or anything like that, because it seems like they follow the lineage for whatever reason. I don't know why that is. It's almost like they're tracking the DNA to see how it's evolving, over time.
It's really interesting because I thought it was way out there, but I recently found I had connections to Corsica and Florence and Monaco.
Okay.
In that area of Europe.
Yeah.
That going back all the way up to 800 AD.
Huh. Yeah, it's definitely if you're interested in that sort of stuff. I mean, tracking your lineage back. I'm not really that interested in it myself. I haven't done any DNA tests or like 23andMe or any of those other things. I just, I am who I am, and my grandparents, came from, someplace, and that's as far back as I need to go.
Yeah, it's embedded in our memories, tucked away, our UFO and paranormal experiences. They will find us.
Yeah, it's interesting how different things do affect our DNA, and certain people who do have experiences, there are signs of change in their genetic stream. It's also interesting how in space our genetic structure is also affected. They did a study with these twins, I can't remember their name, but one would stay on Earth, the other would go into space, and I believe he was in there, I want to say a year, but he was up there for quite some time. And then when he got back, they tested, different things about him that had changed. Of course, his muscle mass, his bone structure. He was actually shorter when he got back. And they did find a change in his genetic makeup due to being in space.
Due to weightlessness and cosmic rays.
Yeah, definitely could be from cosmic rays. I mean, how does that affect, your cellular structure when you're up there? For sure, being bombarded by all that stuff that our ozone and our, magnetic field keeps away from us. So,
it's like 400 times a daily recommended dose of radiation, as they say.
Yeah, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
But given time, I think the human body could adapt to that. Right now, it's just adapted to where we are and what we're doing. So
yeah,
but I'm sure the aliens have figured all that out.
Yes, they've been around longer than we have. It comes to advanced tech.
Right. So that gets me thinking too. If they've been around for millions of years, maybe thousands of years longer than we have, and they have gotten into space, they haven't killed each other off in wars and that sort of thing. Maybe they're not, maybe they don't want to hurt us, but would just rather see us get to the point where they are. Than, as being a spacefaring species as well.
I'm holding out hope that we do.
Yeah, right. You got to join the collective, or what is it in Star Trek? They say
the Federation.
The Federation.
You don't scare me, Tess. I don't want to be part of the Borg. You're a Trekkie, aren't you, Tess?
Oh, yeah. I've been watching it since I was a kid. I used to stay up late to watch that stuff.
I used to get in trouble staying up too late. Me and you both.
I'd stay up late to watch Star Trek, and then I'd end up staying up for Scooby-Doo.
Oh, there you go.
So did me.
You're dating yourself.
Right?
That cartoon gave me nightmares, Scooby-Doo. I used to dream, wake up to Scooby-Doo, and I...
Wow. Yeah. But, there's definitely a possibility that there's a species out there that is trying to do us harm or keep us locked up. A lot of people say, like, they're reptilians or whatever, but I did watch one session with our hypnotherapist regress a young lady that did encounter some reptilians, and that was a pretty scary regression to watch. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was pretty rough on. It was rough on her. It was rough on our therapist, and it was rough on me. I was filming the thing, and that film will never be released, by the way, because it's way too much. And she couldn't watch it, because I was going to have her watch it, and then she watched part of it, and as soon as she started calling for her mom, then that was it. She couldn't watch the rest of it. So that was pretty rough.
Have you considered doing a regression, Lee?
I've done several. Yeah, I've done quite a few.
Have you had anything revealed to
That's
you?
all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
What's that?
Have you had anything revealed to you that you didn't remember from abductions or perhaps past life or anything like that?
Things were revealed to me that I'm trying to be careful. Things were revealed to me that I did not remember, but when I was in regression, I could visualize them and see them and that sort of thing. Yes.
Are you glad that you did it, or do you ever regret that you did a regression?
I am so thankful that I did. I am incredibly thankful. I mean, if you think about your whole paradigm is then shifted, I mean, pretty much the stuff that my grandfather told me, the stuff that my mother told me, I mean, it really never hit home because I never experienced what they experienced, at that time. And so then when, like, holy crap, this stuff is real, this is really happening to people, this stuff is really happening to me, I mean, it's a little bit of an eye-opener. And in fact, I was suicidal for probably a month and a half. Yeah, I was, and eventually I got out of it through more regression work, and then it's just I want to know more. I need to know. I need to be involved with this. I can't shut it out of my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had a person on that does regressions, and she actually offered to do one for free for me. I still haven't done it because I'm just wondering, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to know certain things that I've blocked out or for some reason shouldn't be remembering? Plus, I don't want her to be walking through my mind and maybe, knock a table over or something.
She did it for me, Tess. It's not scary at all.
Well, it can be. It can be very scary, and it can it can put you in a place you don't want to be. Really can, and it did for me. But thankfully, I stayed with my therapist and got through it all. I did 12 sessions and all, and by the fourth one, I think I was out of that whole depression mode, and was into just needing to know more. I mean, the thirst for knowledge then was just enormous.
Has it helped you with your emotional state? For me, it did, the regressions.
Yes, definitely helped with my emotional state. Yep, it's a big positive. But, yeah.
So as far as your kids go and having experiences with aliens and UFOs, do you think that's affected them negatively, or is it more of a positive thing? Has it opened their minds up to a lot of different things that perhaps they wouldn't be privy to?
I think it probably has opened their minds, but not only opened their minds, but it's opened my mind as well. It's given me insight into things. It's like you get a bunch of people, and it's like putting puzzle pieces together, right? But you still can't see the picture, but at least you're putting puzzle pieces together. So it does help, going through and talking with them about what they've experienced, and relating those facts to your experiences or other people's experiences, because You feel like more of a family that way. I mean, it's if you experience the same things that your children have, it's but it's also hard, and it's kind of sad, because they don't know how to digest what they are seeing or hearing, or because it doesn't fit into their everyday life either. It's kind of outside that. But
yeah, I know.
Still,
in school, for me, like sharing my experiences with other kids wasn't very good. There's a lot of backlash and judgment and ridicule, so I learned to keep that stuff to myself until 2012 is when I decided to come out of the paranormal closet, is what I call it. I didn't care anymore. But it is hard as a kid in general, just finding acceptance, and then when you share certain things with people or, your peers or whatnot, it can make life quite difficult.
yes, it can, and it will affect them that way. But their dad will be there for them and help them through it. And not only that, but I've got a great amount of people that I've worked with now that can also help them too. So with therapists and therapy and different things. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So important.
definitely, we'll get them integrated into their life.
Right?
Yeah.
So for our listeners, where can they find your videos and the different things that you and the UFOiTeam do?
Okay, so you'll find us on Facebook at UFOiTeam. We also have a website, UFOiTeam.com. YouTube, UFOiTeam. So we're pretty much out there most places. You can also look up Lee Strauss. Let's see, I've got Instagram, so you'll find me there, Lee Strauss, and you'll find me. You won't find me on Facebook. I am there, but I've hidden myself very well because I really kind of a recluse, and I don't like to be in the public eye that much for obvious reasons. And but you can always get in contact with me through Facebook at the UFOiTeam. If you have any questions or comments or whatever, you've got a story to share with us, we'd be happy to hear it. If you've got a UFO that's landing in your backyard and you're here in Washington State, we would love to come out and taste the area and do some evidence retrieval and see what we can come up with.
Well, thanks so much, Christopher, for calling in. And I just want to thank you, Lee, for being on the show with me tonight and being a guest on Late Night in the Rockies this evening.
Well, thank you very much. You've been a gracious host.
You are gracious, Tess.
Aw, thanks, guys. Much love to you, Christopher. And thank you to all of our listeners on We Are Paradox Media, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Periscope, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you may be listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening, and I can't wait to do it again next weekend. We have Mr. Craig LaFleur on Saturday the 14th with Healing and Binaural Beats, as well as Mr. Sean Sellers for Sunday night. Make sure you tune in. Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. Until next time, nighty-night, love and light. And I hope the rest of your Sunday evening is nice and fulfilling. And I will see you back here, same time, same place. Feel free to join us on our Skype after party. Look me up on Skype, Tessa Thomas-Peterson. Hope you can get through. We have a really good time in there. Make sure you go to YouTube, give us a like, and follow us on Spreaker.